All right, in this video, we're talking about what are the Airbnb laws in Denver, a very hot topic.
We're Erin and James Real Estate, and if you want more content like this, please like and subscribe below.
First thing you need to know is that there is a primary residence rule. That is really the defining feature of all city laws, whether or not you have a primary residence rule or not. And what does that mean? It means that, kind of like it sounds like, you have to live in the property that you're Airbnb. You can rent out a room, you can rent out a basement, but you have to live there.
I would say the other thing that you really need to know is that Denver takes it seriously. So their compliance is nothing to mess around with. We probably have, I don't know if we have the best compliance in the United States, but we have very strong compliance, and we are the only city in the United States that pursues felonies against people. So please take this part seriously.
Yeah, just so you know, they did pursue, as Erin just alluded to, 3 different felonies against 3 different groups a few years ago. All those charges were dropped, but I think that is indicative of how serious they are about pursuing this. So if you're looking to try to skirt the law, sure, you might be able to do it, but just know that you are up against a pretty heavy foe in the city of Denver.
Yeah, there could be serious consequences. So we get some common questions around this, aside from just the primary residence rule. And what that means is that you take mail, it's your address. So a big question that comes up a lot is, if I have a duplex, can I rent out the other side? No, not if that other side has a different address. But if you have a mother-in-law suite or an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit in the backyard that does not have a separate address, you can rent out that space, but it's really just the idea of 2 addresses where you're gonna be in trouble.
Yeah, you can also do a basement apartment or a basement unit. You should know, though, that the city is even cracking down on some carriage houses that are detached and some basement apartments if there is a wall between the upstairs and the downstairs. So just reach out to us if you have more questions about that.
And you can always do a room in your place as well. So basically taking a short-term roommate is totally fine as long as it's your primary residence in your space. There's no issue with that. Another question is, what constitutes a primary residence? So if you're traveling all the time, or let's say you have a house in California but you have a house in Denver, what does that look like? What's the law there?
We don't know. The way the law is written is that it has to be your primary place of return as proven by a series of documents like driver's license, tax returns, stuff like that. But they do not define it in terms of number of days. There are other cities like Colorado Springs, for instance, where they actually say, bam, it's 185 days and you have to live there 185 days for it to be your primary residence. It's kind of in flux in Denver, which I think confuses some people because they're so strict about it, but they won't actually tell you what it means.
But there's also an idea that they might adopt some of the laws of the surrounding city. Like Boulder is far more strict, and so is Aurora, where they have actual numbers.
Golden requires you to be there for 10 months of the year.
Yeah. So I think it's safe to say that Denver might adopt that even if they don't have it right now. Another question people ask about is the spouse situation. So what if you and your spouse live in 2 different primary residences? Then can you have 2 different Airbnbs?
I know that's a very popular question. Can I live somewhere else other than my spouse? Yes, technically, I think you can. It's where you are living. It's your primary residence. Now, don't try to skirt the law. I mean, if you're really living with your partner, and you're just trying to say that you live in 2 different places. That actually happened with one of the felony cases. They were trying to make that claim, and the city was onto it. So the other thing you might want to be aware of is HOAs, and this is true across all cities, anywhere where you want to buy a short-term rental. Even if it is your primary residence, let's say you live in a condo in downtown Denver, and it's your primary residence, most HOAs will not allow short-term rentals less than 30 days. We do know of a couple condo buildings that do allow it, so if you're interested, reach out to us, but just be aware that most HOA documents and declarations, rules and regulations will not allow that.
And with all Airbnb or short-term rentals, you really are looking at the city level, and then if there's any other kind of compliance. So if you're in a condo or a townhome, then it's more obvious that you have an HOA. But if you're in a neighborhood, HOAs might be an issue as well. Before we wrap up, we should mention that if you are looking for an Airbnb or short-term investment in Denver and the primary residence rule isn't going to work for you, there are metro cities around it that support this that you can do legally.
And we have a bunch of videos about those other cities, Arvada, Wheat Ridge, just to name a few. You might check that out. All right, so if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest, reach out to us. You can find our emails and contact information at Erin and James Real Estate. And if you like this content and want more, like and subscribe.
Also, for those of you that love audio, we have a podcast, and you can see the link to that as well.